Refugee lies and the people they hurt. I'm Brian Lilly with the Rebel.media. I'm not sure what to believe anymore about the Liberal Party's refugee rush other than they're going to bring in large numbers of Syrian refugees to Canada as fast as they can. And to hell with whether it's good for the country, our local communities, or the refugees themselves. The more I find out about how they're handling everything in this file, the more I'm convinced it's become little more than fulfilling an ill-conceived election promise just to make themselves look good. The latest troubling news is that officials told a House of Commons committee that very few of the refugees that we've brought over so far, and we've brought over plenty, very few of them have come from the refugee camps we've heard so much about.
Most of the 21,000 refugees that have made it to our borders were now housed in camps. They have been living in theater for a number of years, renting apartments. So I just want to that for the precision. They're not housed in camps administered by the UNHCR.
Yeah, can you give me a breakdown? How many from camps? And
I wouldn't be able to tell you the 21,000, how many, but very, very few came out of camps. Most of the people were already living in the countries where we are operating.
Yeah.
That was Martin Bolduc, a senior, very senior in fact, senior official at the Canada Border Services Agency. He was speaking to the House of Commons Public Safety Committee. I don't know about you, but to me, that's a pretty stunning revelation, don't you think? Consider this. Since November 4th, when Trudeau and company took over, the Government of Canada has brought over 21,672 refugees. There's another 5,000 that have been processed but haven't come over yet, and there will be more coming. They're still processing, still looking for more. Now, if you thought that one of the reasons we had to help these people, why we had to move so fast was because they were living in squalor in the camps and we'd be giving them a better life, then you're not alone. Liberals have been making that argument all along. That's been the supporting fact of their argument. Ask a supporter, why so many? Why so fast? And they'll tell you, these people are in camps, we've got to help. In fact, Health Minister Jane Philpott made comments about bringing refugees from the camps when she visited a site in Jordan in late November. Let me read to you from the news release issued by the government at the time. They said, to provide a sense of the daily lives of refugees, ministers visited the Zaatari refugee camp located outside of Amman, Jordan, which is home to approximately 80,000 refugees. Ministers toured the camp and had the opportunity to speak with a number of Syrian refugees who have been displaced for many months and in some cases years. 80,000 refugees living in one camp. That's a lot. In listening to Philpott speak at the time from the site, you would think that's one of the places that we're drawing the refugees from.
We are partway through a visit that has been extremely valuable to us. We've had an opportunity to visit one of the largest refugee camps where many of the refugees are staying. We have also now been able to attend the opening of the SOFEX processing center.
And yet very few come from any of the camps. You know, similar comments were made in the House of Commons during debates from backbench Liberals to Prime Minister Trudeau himself.
Many of the refugees who are arriving in Canada now, they have been in United Nations refugee camps for years. And they've already been screened by the United Nations, the Canadian Immigration, Police and Security officials.
Also this week, the first flights carrying Syrian refugees from camps in Jordan and Turkey will land on Canadian soil.
Then there were the headlines, the stories going back months. Justin Trudeau saying, we've got to help people in the camps now. And that was back in September. Let me read to you from the story. He said, we've got to doing more to help people in the camps who are worried about things, who are fleeing for their lives, who are living in terrible conditions. Check out John McCallum, the immigration minister, being cited by CBC in January. McCallum, who visited refugee camps in Lebanon last month, said that having refugees stay in a hotel or military base for a couple of weeks was better than some of the lamentable living conditions they experienced prior to their arrival in Canada. For months, Liberals have told us that these people were suffering, that they've been living in camps for months or years and bringing them over in an orderly, slower fashion. Well, that wasn't compassion. We've got to bring them over now. Well, they were wrong. And how bloody wrong are they? It's unreal. Their own officials say that the vast majority of these people were not living in camps. They were living in apartments in towns and cities. McCallum actually knew this. I found him responding to a debate question on a debate about supplementary estimates, meaning the debate was really over government spending, and then they started talking about refugees. Check out what McCallum was saying in the House of Commons back in December.
And I can also assure the member that the people listed on the UN list in Jordan, for example, only about 15% are in camps, 85% are spread around the rest of the country. So I think that addresses one of the issues that was raised to you.
They've been playing on your heartstrings that we need to move people here and move them here fast by making you think it was all about squalid conditions in refugee camps. We needed to give them a better life here in Canada. Well, the facts are they weren't in camps. They were mostly, as I've said, in nearby towns and cities. They were living in apartments. They were living in houses. I have no doubt that fleeing war, fleeing the likes of ISIS or the Assad regime, that's a horrible experience. It's harrowing. But once you're settled in a new and safe country, living in your own apartment, do you need to be uprooted very quickly and sent off to Canada in the depths of winter to be warehoused in a hotel? Because that's what we're doing. We may not be pulling people out of refugee camps, but we are setting up de facto refugee camps in Canada by warehousing people in cities and towns that cannot accommodate them sufficiently, shoving people into hotels night after night, week after week. Is that a fair process to anyone? Now, maybe you don't like this entire project. If so, forget about any concerns you may or may not have about Syrian refugees. Imagine yourself a parent with 3 or 4 kids under 10. You've been promised a better life in Canada, and instead you're living in a hotel for weeks on end in a frigid climate you're not used to. You have no connections to the community, you don't speak the language, and you're holed up in one hotel room. How happy are you? Likely not happy at all. Check out this story from CBC. It's about refugees that settled in Vancouver. Now they're out of the hotels, but the Canadian government promised them all kinds of help, money, support, English lessons. It's not coming. From the article, it's been 2 months since I've requested just to have the exam for English course placement, says government-assisted Syrian refugee Shadi Al-Radi, speaking through an interpreter. The Immigrant Services Society of BC responded that they don't even have 15 minutes to talk with me. This makes me feel frustrated and depressed since I don't have any more time to waste. The story goes on to say that Al-Radi says he feels trapped in his home. He can't afford the bus fare to visit the library with his toddler, can't find help arranging for emergency dental treatment, can't figure out when and if he'll be enrolled in English courses. Do you think he wishes he'd left his apartment now? We promised him the world, and because we're rushing everything, can't do it. You can say boo-hoo, tough on you if you want to, but this man and his family came to Canada on the promise they would get support. They're not getting it. Why? Immigration settlement agencies are overwhelmed. They can't cope with Trudeau's rush, and these are the people that back his goals. But they're saying he needs to slow down. Too bad he's not going to. As the Vancouver area still struggles to deal with the number of refugees they have already, they're being told another 1,100 are coming. This is insane. There's no housing, no support for these people, and they will once again be warehoused in hotels, just as they already are in Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, Hamilton, and soon Victoria, Brampton, and Mississauga. This week, several new tender requests went out from the government seeking more hotel rooms. Victoria, Brampton, and Mississauga, they're the new markets where refugees will be warehoused in hotel rooms, but they're also seeking additional rooms in Toronto. Again, that's not fair to the refugees. We promised them a better life. They're giving up apartments and homes for what? To be stuck in a rundown 3-star hotel room with no connection to the outside world while overwhelmed settlement agencies scramble to find them housing? It's unfair to them. But it's also unfair to the Canadian taxpayer that's footing the bill because doing it this way costs more. How many hotel rooms are being rented per night and for how long and at what cost? The simple fact is we do not know because the government will not give us an answer. See, I asked for simple numbers. I waited days and then was told by an immigration official they couldn't tell me how many hotel rooms were being used, not even a ballpark. They said, well, you can find out when the entire Syrian refugee project is over. Here's the email from the official. Or part of it anyway. Refugees arrive daily and permanent housing also becomes available daily. This means that the number of refugees in hotels fluctuates constantly and we are unable to provide a number. The total number of rooms, contracts also fluctuate depending on ongoing needs in destination communities. Final data on the project, including hotel usage, will be available when the project concludes. Again, zero oversight from the outside world for the biggest project the Trudeau government's doing. Here's what we do know, however. The government had between 300 and 600 rooms in Toronto alone. They're now looking for 600 more, plus another 500 in nearby Brampton and Mississauga. They're looking for 150 rooms per night in Victoria, all of this on top of the hundreds of rooms that they have in Montreal, Ottawa, Halifax, Hamilton, and elsewhere. These people are staying in hotels longer than normal, and that is costing all of us big bucks. We don't know the cost of the hotel rooms, and I'm sure that varies from city, but we do know what the government is paying to feed the refugees. It's in the same number, the same dollar figure in every contract, $61 a day, $15 for breakfast, $16 for lunch, $30 a day per refugee for dinner. $61 a day. Figure that out. Family of four, that's $244 a day, or $1,708 a week that the government's paying to two hotels to feed a family of four. Is that a good use of taxpayers' money? What could you do with $1,700 a week to feed your family? What could the refugee families do with that money just for food? But all of this could have been avoided if Trudeau and company had simply slowed down. They didn't, and they won't. For them, this is a vanity project. It's not about what's good for the refugee families. It's not about what's good for taxpayers. It's just about making Justin Trudeau look good. We were told we had to act fast to save people in camps. We now know that's not true. And we also know that everyone in this process, from the refugee families to the settlement agencies to the taxpayers footing the bill, are all suffering to make Trudeau look good. It is ridiculous, to say the least.